Okay, I think we're unmuted now.
We are tied in.
Cool.
Can you hear
That
us
sounds
now?
good as well? No? Yeah? Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Congrats,
Well,
Phyllis.
thanks. Thank you. Okay.
Right
Got that
on.
done last Thursday. All right. And yes.
I just got two communications.
got
Did
it.
the meeting
Okay.
start?
Go ahead and call to order the Board of Supervisors regular meeting for Tuesday, April 2nd. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And we'll go to the manager for announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to members of the board, staff, and the public for joining us for this April 2nd Board of Supervisors regular meeting. This meeting has been properly advertised in accordance with the Sunshine Act as a hybrid meeting with the option to attend virtually and here in person in the main meeting room. If you are attending virtually using the WebEx video conferencing platform and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please say your name, municipality of residence, and the item you wish to speak on when the chairwoman calls on you. If you are attending in person with us in the main meeting room and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please address the board at the podium and state your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on. Prior to commencing the meeting, I have a few short procedural items to cover. First, members of the public attending using the WebEx video conferencing platform are asked to remain muted during the meeting to prevent any ambient noise from disrupting the meeting. If a member of the public is acknowledged by the chair, they may unmute their microphone for their question or comment. Secondly, board members are asked to indicate their name when motioning or seconding a motion so that the minutes may accurately reflect the action taken. And finally, a roll call of the Board of Supervisors will now be taken. Please indicate that you are here when your name is called. Ms. Strickland?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here, sorry.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Mr. Heller?
Here.
Thank you, Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. And at this time, I'll also announce that we're going to remove one item from tonight's agenda, and that's new business item 2. We'll be removing that from 26th, okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes, that's what I was trying to recall. We did, yes, so I'll announce, anyway, so just to conclude that item, so we are removing new business item number 2. And I will announce that there was an executive session on March 26th regarding personnel.
March
22nd,
Thank you.
absolutely. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to our proclamations. We have 2 proclamations this evening. The first is a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to recognize April 20th, 2024 as Watershed Cleanup Day. And those in the audience for that, I didn't invite you up to the podium. If you have any remarks and comments you'd care to share before I read the proclamation. And right over
there,
here,
sorry.
yeah, that's all right.
I'm from Half Moon and we don't have all this stuff.
No problem at all. If you could just,
Don't tell them I said.
We'll see.
just go ahead and give us your name for the.
So I'm Donnie Instacovi, I'm the interim executive director, and I'm pleased to be here to accept this. I brought a couple posters for the Watershed Cleanup Day for you to hang up, and if you need more, let us know, we can send them to you. Last year we had over 500 people who helped with the cleanup. We cleaned up lots of stream area, lots of roads, so we're hoping members from Ferguson Township will join us. On the poster, there's a QR code for people to register, so it's a wonderful experience. Love to be out there cleaning up, and it's on March 20th, or sorry, wrong month. April, that's what happened. April 20th from 8 to noon, and so look forward to having members of the community be there for us, and so thank you for inviting us to be here this evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation. Following our second proclamation, we're going to take a short recess for some photos, so I invite you to stay for that as well.
Love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation. And this is a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to recognize April 20th, 2024 as Watershed Cleanup Day. Whereas on April 20th, 2024, Watershed Cleanup Day will take place. And whereas this event is organized by Clearwater Conservancy, a nonprofit organization that strives to promote environmental outreach and stewardship of the area's water resources. And whereas Ferguson Township affirms its commitment to environmental stewardship and preserving the quality of life in its mission statement and strategic plan. And whereas on Watershed Cleanup Day, there are a number of local sites and projects in need of volunteers. And whereas this day is an opportunity for community involvement, environmental education, and protection of our natural resources. And whereas last year, 430 volunteers prevented 12,550 pounds of trash from entering our waterways across 47 sites. Now therefore, the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors does hereby designate April 20th, 2024 as Watershed Cleanup Day. We encourage all residents, family, and friends of all ages to volunteer for Watershed Cleanup Day 2024 by visiting their website at clearwaterconservancy.org/WCD, proclaimed this second day of April 2024. And I will take a motion to adopt the proclamation.
This is Matt, so
This is Omari, second.
Any other discussion? Thanks so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us tonight on this.
And I'll leave these with Centuries.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right, thanks very much. And like I said, we're going to read the second proclamation, and then we'll take a quick recess to have some photos with our special guests. So we will move to a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to designate Saturday, April 27th, 2024 as Ferguson Township Arbor Day. And I would invite Larry to come on up and to the podium, introduce yourself, and share any thoughts you have on this event. I see we're getting some information.
it was a late night. So working on
This is fantastic.
So, let's see here.
Thank you.
Generated
Great.
new Arbor Day logo for the season.
Fantastic. Those are great.
very important, somebody like me, to someone a lover of nature as well. It's an accreditation we earn from the Arbor Day Foundation that we get. We're one of 34 cities or townships across the nation actually has the accreditation, and believe it or not, it is quite a bit of work to earn the accreditation and to keep it. Some of the things rewards that a tree commission, ordinance protecting trees, $2 per capita towards the care of trees, and the most important is the Arbor Day proclamation and a Arbor Day celebration. I'm here today to discuss our Arbor Day celebration. Will be my third. It's Ferguson Township's 8th. It's going to be held at Tudick Park. A little change of time this year. It's going to be from 11 to 1 o'clock. It's been wonderfully attended. A lot of events, and we plan on growing it every year. So this year, as of last year, we had some wonderful arts and crafts for the kids, making and stuff like that. We had a ceremonial tree planting, we had a tree walk, we had bucket truck rides. This year, we intend to add some additional, is having some tailors, some of our nonprofits on the site, some like-minded folks to help celebrate the day. And we currently have someone in-house working on a tree ride, a small little bike ride. It was the bike pass celebrating trees. So it's something we're adding this year, a little tree ID walk. So it's going to be at Tudick Park, April 27th, from 11 to 1 o'clock. The bucket truck rides are quite a hit, and usually they're a little dark. So folks line up for that. It's a lot of fun. So this poster, I like to take credit for it, but it's kind of, the theme is kind of, every day is Arbor Day. We celebrate winter, spring, summer, fall, benefits of trees for lives. So, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks for being here this evening and organizing this event. This is fantastic. And I'll go ahead and read the proclamation at this time. And this is the 2024 Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas President Theodore Roosevelt in 1907 issued an Arbor Day proclamation to school children avowing that when you help to preserve our forests or plant new ones, you are acting the part of good citizens. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, has since grown into a global event celebrating tree planting and care. And whereas the citizens of Ferguson Township are custodians of many thousands of trees of a variety of species, which combat the effects of climate change, increase property values, lower utility costs, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, prolong the lifespan of infrastructure, and beautify the community. And whereas Ferguson Township recognizes that trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim Saturday, April 27th, 2024, to be Ferguson Township Arbor Day, and encourages all citizens to celebrate and support efforts to protect trees and woodlands in our community. Proclaimed this second day of April 2024. Now we'll take a motion to adopt the proclamation.
This is Matt, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Omari, second.
Thanks. Any discussion? Comments? Just thanks so much for organizing this. Really, both events are really very important to the community, and I know they take a lot of work and effort on your behalf and others, and so we're very appreciative of this. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. And we're going to take just a brief 5-minute recess at this time to take some photos with our guests. I have 7:17, so let's call it 7:22, 23 in there. All right, thank you.
We decide on what we wanted to.
No, nothing like that. No, I like that, that's a plan.
If you remove it, no obstruction, we're good.
That was the fastest we have ever done pictures. Time to spare. Okay, I'm gonna wait until 22 just to make sure everybody's back. Mm-hmm. All right, if staff is all set and CNET is ready to go, I'm going to call us back to order. Thanks for allowing us that quick recess. And up next is public input, and this is an opportunity for anyone to comment on any item not on tonight's agenda. And I'd ask you to please come up to the podium and give us your name and township of residence.
Yes, my name's Mike Savick, and there's apparently you need my fence pulled down in the front of my farm. I've been farming there for 50 years, and evidently the right-of-way isn't where I thought it was. And it causes me a lot of difficulty, not just to pull it down, but my animals and my privacy of my farm. I really would rather the bike path didn't go clear out to my farm. Or it was able to leave, if you could leave my fence alone and just pull it over towards the road, or some other alternative. But it's gonna be really difficult for me. I have 70 cows, and the possibility of them getting out on the road would just be horrible to me and everybody else. The fence is it's for security and privacy. I really don't want a turnaround on my barn bank either, and that's sort of what it seems like the bike path would do if it went out and just stopped at my driveway and turned around. I really don't even understand the point of doing a bike path out there, but I'd just like you to look into other alternatives, and hopefully we don't have to make me pull my fence down. Actually, there's 21 foot from the center line to my barn bank for a lane, for the lane going west, and at the guardrails is 16. So, I mean, that spot in front of the farm itself, I don't even know that we have to pull the fence down, but just appreciate you looking into that matter.
Thanks very much. Thanks for coming and sharing those
Thank you.
comments. I appreciate it. Any other public comments for items not on tonight's agenda? I'm not seeing any, so we will move on to approval of the minutes, and these are the minutes from March 19th. Were there any changes or corrections to be made to those? No, not seeing any, so if we have a motion to accept the minutes.
Madam Chair, I'll move to accept the minutes as written in the agenda packet. This is Mr. Thompson.
Thanks. Is there a second?
Yeah, this is Matt, I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. Up next, we have authorities, boards, and commission reports. And first up is the Center Area Transportation Authority report with Mr. Rob DeMeo. And I know we had a report included with our agenda, but if you had any other items to share, if anything you wanted to highlight on that. And I believe we have Rob online, yes.
Yep, I'm here. Nope, nothing else to share. Kat has prepared a memo, and then I've also provided highlights from the meeting. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks very much. I appreciated both of those included in the agenda packet. There was a great deal of information, so thanks for including both of those. Questions for Mr. DeMayo? We'll go to the table first. On CATA, any questions? Not seeing any, Amari?
Just on the mid-year service adjustments, and the feedback, any details on some of that feedback, and, is it mostly positive? I know during my time, there were regularly, some concerns about some of those adjustments.
Yeah, it was definitely positive on CATA's side because it aligned the drivers with the available drivers with services that they were rolling out. I think the only feedback that I can think about, and I can't say that it was related to the mid-year adjustments, was the feedback that was given to actually the Board of Supervisors about some of the services down into the Cato Park area, which CATA temporarily addressed, and it looks like they are going to permanently address with service through next fiscal year. But beyond that, I don't believe there was anything else that comes to mind.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Jeremy, anything? Patty, any questions?
Yeah, just a quick question, Rob, about the, you had something in there about upgrading some of the bus stops, the shelters, et cetera. There is one on Viro Boulevard near Tremont Apartments that should probably have some attention, it's leaking. And were you gonna add more? Was CATA planning on adding more to other stops, or just replacing and updating some of the ones they had?
Yeah, so the planning that they had was just to refresh the existing shelters or any of the signage that they had around the stop. So it was an interesting fact that they pointed out that they don't actually own the land that all the stops are on, but they do have the responsibility for those shelters. So the high-level presentation that was given to us by David Rochelle just talked to almost exactly what I have in there, a refresh of bus stops and accessibility assessment. I will certainly share the Viro Boulevard note, and if I have any questions on that, I'll just come directly back to you if I can't pinpoint where that is.
Great, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Great, and I don't see any other questions. Thanks so much for the report, and thanks for being here tonight. And we will move to Spring Creek Watershed Commission. And I see Kevin Abbey is online, and you also had a report included. Is there anything you wanted to highlight and share?
No. Kevin Abbey with the Watershed Commission. Report is in the packet. I didn't have anything really in detail to add, but look forward to any questions you might have about what we're trying to do with the Spring Creek Watershed Commission.
Thanks, Kevin. Questions on Spring Creek Watershed? Looking around.
Just a small one. I saw that the expenses outweighed income. Was there some sort of like just one-time thing that happened, or is that going to be a regular occurrence?
No, the expenses come in, or excuse me, the revenues come in as municipalities fulfill their contributions, and all of the expenses that were included were budgeted, so it's merely a cash flow. There's more than adequate resources to cover the expenditures. But thanks for looking. Yeah.
Copy that. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll highlight a couple of things. One was the State of the Watershed event that was held last week. It was such a nice event. Lots of great information was shared there. Lots of great presentations from different groups. DEP was there, Fish and Game. It was very interesting, and I know they had all come with a lot of different PowerPoints, and I think hopefully at some point those will be loaded on the Spring Creek Watershed Commission website, so if anybody wants to access those. I see Kevin nodding there.
Yes.
Yeah, it was such a well-done event, very informative, And I'd highlight too, a presentation we had at this month's Spring Creek Watershed Commission meeting from Ivy Foster, I want to say, from the Center County Conservation District on Beach Creek and acid mine drainage. And it too was just a really well done presentation. And I think if anybody wants that, I can reach out to Watershed Commission and get a copy of that. But it was another one that was just so well done. And it's really just encouraging to see all these folks working in these areas and the kind of really hard work they're doing out there, you know, monitoring month after month. I mean, it really is laborious. It is some physical labor they're getting out there and doing, and just to give some kudos to them. And so, well, thanks very much, Kevin. I don't see any other questions. But thanks for serving on that committee.
I don't. Yeah, thank you guys for appointing me, and I would just echo, Lisa, that the State of the Watershed meeting was very successful, a lot of great involvement. We had 50 people who attended, and it's led to a lot of positive interaction with member municipalities and how we can collaborate and cooperate going forward. So
That's great.
thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
It's great to have you there.
Oh, thanks. I enjoyed it. Definitely learned a lot. This being my first year on that commission, it's fascinating. There's a lot to learn. All right, so we will move to special reports and acknowledgements. We have a number of items under our diversity, equity, and inclusionary activities and acknowledgements calendar. This month is Arab American Heritage Month, Child Abuse Prevention Month, and World Autism Month. International Dark Sky Week is April 2nd to 8th. Ramadan ends Tuesday, April 9th, and Earth Day is Monday, April 22nd. Arbor Day is Friday, April 26th, and the Ferguson Township Arbor Day celebration is April 27th at Tudeck. And I know we do have information on that, and as well as the Watershed Cleanup Day event on the 20th. So that was that. We will move to COG and Regional Committee reports. First up is the Parks and Recreation Governance Committee report, and we'll go to Patty.
Great, thank you. There really weren't any action items that came out of that meeting, but I am happy to say that even though I sort of stumbled through my words and explanations of how we really would like to see an overall Parks Committee for COG. We would like to have that committee. It was, I'm not sure how well it was received by all, but I felt there were some colleagues who agreed and thought that having a Parks Committee would sort of be like a what public safety is for all of that, as it was explained, like a litmus test for whether or not some of the things that were coming from the authority, the Parks Authority, would be something that would go through. So not every municipality was there, so we were missing a few municipalities to be able to see what they thought. So we didn't really resolve that, but I guess the two of the people that were there as part of that committee were from the authority, and I think I just question whether or not they really are able to vote on whether COG forms a committee called Parks. I'm not sure that they really have the ability to say whether or not we can or cannot form a committee. But the overall gist was that I think that they would probably go along with it as long as everybody understood their roles, which is what that matrix that we keep referring to was about. So overall, I think they heard that we would like to have a deliberative body in COG that talks about parks before things like parks and the nature center and the pools go to just finance committee for the final decision. So I think we have a foot in the door with that, and we're definitely being heard. And I'm appreciative for the discussion that we had with everybody at that meeting.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Patty? Parks governance? You, Jeff?
Just a thank you, ma'am, for kind of beating the drum, for lack of a better term, of kind of where we would like to be organizationally. I think there's a lot of work. That matrix is beautiful and ugly at the same time.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
The beauty being it exists and we can see it, and there's all this kind of different people with different lead roles, different organizations, and, you know, I would love to see us fix that. Like that is, it is the source of problems, but also the source of some solutions.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll agree. Thanks very much for serving on that committee. It's definitely very involved, and for, you know, advocating for that park committee. So I think you've heard it from us repeatedly. So thanks so much for continuing that. All right, and we will move to Climate Action and Sustainability Committee with Matt.
Yeah, so this is hot off the press. We just had our meeting yesterday, not as hot as the facilities meeting, which happened today. So this report will have to find its way into the agenda. I'll make sure it gets over to the township. But a couple different things I want to highlight. We had a report from SCASD. Essentially, the Park Forest Middle School will be built, the new one, across on Valley Vista, adjacent to Circleville. So there might be a road that goes in there that, you know, climate action and sustainability might be involved in the conversation on that. A couple other highlights, the solar power purchase agreement. Right now, we're going through, and essentially the purchase power, the solicitor for the solar power purchase agreement and our solicitor at Ferguson Township are going through right now, kind of aligning documents to make sure that the language and there isn't one document that says X and another document potentially contradicts that. So they're kind of putting their final review on that. And we hope to have an approval process, something through the approval process here late April, but likely early May for general forum and others at that point. Also a reminder, pretty much not so much us as a municipality, but other municipalities as well, is that if you're signing up to use X amount of kilowatt hours per the contract, that is what you will be charged, whether or not you use them or not. Now, that doesn't impact Ferguson, right, because we're doing a percentage of the total, if I understood everything correctly. But again, other municipalities needed to be, were at least made aware, or at least that was restated in the meeting. Then we talked about the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. With that, there were about 29 recommendations that were being prioritized. And of those 29 recommendations, essentially they'll go to general forum late summer and fall for more discussion, etc. But I love what they're doing in this space where they're trying to help municipalities say, hey, here's some ideas of how you know, things that we might think are a priority that you may also consider priorities. And here's some things you might want to consider, ordinances, etc., to align your climate goals collectively. Etc. So that was some good conversation there. And then finally, we talked about the refuse and recycling. We had some extra money, well, I should say there's money from the fund balance and kind of what to do with that. There were 4 options on the table that were presented, and the discussion really revolved around improving the education and outreach to the community about how they will be impacted by the changes. And potentially the idea of, you know, finding somebody to assist with the transition between haulers and everything that comes with that, changing out carts, et cetera, because it is going to be a burden for COG resources to receive calls and respond in a timely manner to folks with the conversion going over. So we had some discussion around that. At a high level, that was it. So I'm happy to talk about any of those items or dive into anything.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Let's start here.
On the solar power purchase agreement, I'm glad you had brought up about the usage, because when I read the contracts, it did sound like it was like, look, if you are buying this much and you don't use it, but through what you're saying for Ferguson Township, we're not in that situation because we're only using a percentage.
I believe we're right.
Yeah.
Let me pause for a moment.
There are, I mean, my understanding is that the numbers that they have and the percentages are based on several years ago. in terms of
Yeah, I'm gonna ask
usage?
the manager,
Oh, sorry.
because I could give an answer, but I'll ask the manager if you probably have a more concise answer than I can give.
So a process began several years ago, and about a year and a half, the township, specifically the board, had vested, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's 90% of our electricity to be purchased, to purchase the solar. So there is a breakdown and a calculation and a formula that I don't have, and even if I had it in front of me, admittedly, I wouldn't want to necessarily be the one to tell you the breakdown. Our appointed representative for that committee has changed over time at a staff level. It was our finance director, and then Dave Modricker, our director of public works. I've asked him to represent the township. And so that 90% that we pledge to have is based on information that I'd feel most comfortable following up in an email to ensure that those details are accurate and confirm that it's 90%. Because there was a point in time where the board went back and forth on 80 or 85 or 90, and so I just would need to confirm where we landed.
Thank you for that, and I'll throw in that this, that subject is probably one of the question areas I have for when this gets put back on our agenda for discussion. And so, because we, in discussions, we determined we would commit to 90% of the electricity that we use to be coming from here, but that translates into a certain number of kilowatt hours that we agreed to purchase. So we left that 10% as, kind of a flexible amount there. So if we increase efficiencies, if we, remodel part of this building and add, solar panels on the roof, that we would have some expansion here on our own that we could do if, say we moved to electric vehicles, and the public works building could actually support that if we expanded that grid over there. So the idea of going with the 90% was to allow some innovation here, and not knowing what kind of remodeling and different things would happen here, or investments in different kinds of assets that we have. So, but we're still at 90%, so that is still a significant amount, whatever kilowatts that is. Like the manager, I'm not gonna try to recall what that is. And that's why I have this, kind of on a list for the questions when we review this in probably the first meeting in May. I would guess. That's my other question for the report. But, we will, so whatever those kilowatt hours, if we don't use them, say if we increase efficiencies to a point, we will still have to pay for that. So I think my understanding was that everybody's in the same boat for that.
Yeah, they were essentially saying that if your municipality was at 100%, you just make sure you have to use all of that. And I think from my perspective with Ferguson in particular, that everything works out perfectly. We save $75,000 over 15 years. It's just, the risk is just not, there's not a lot of risk in a lot of what's going on in the agreement, et cetera, for this, from my perspective. So, yes, the other item there, the climate action and adaptation plan, that also kind of tries to encompass the conversation of, well, if you have efficiencies here, where can you either use that, et cetera, or how can you, kind of offset things. So I think it's really trying to wrap our arms around this from a couple different angles on it.
And then, so was it your understanding that this will go back to the climate committee next, and then executive general forum, or we might not even be sure of that progression of steps at this point until everything's back from the solicitors?
Well,
Yeah, so, okay, and that's fair, yeah, you don't have to answer that now, because I don't know if we know.
It's in the report. Yeah, essentially, the general document will go to the general forum in late summer and fall. Now, what happens between now and that, maybe I don't have all the details on that, I don't.
Which one's going in late summer?
This is the climate action and adaptation plan, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
No, this one is actually, let me scroll up here. This one is for the purchase power agreement, likely May, so late April, early May.
It comes back to climate committee.
Sorry, one second.
Oh, did you talk about it okay, so we can,
yeah.
yeah, it's difficult to, when
The
different committees are talking
plan
about it. Okay.
was for March 27th for all of the contracts to come out of the solicitors and to be distributed amongst COG committees. And then for them to come to the townships to be
Oh,
approved
straight from, okay.
by May.
Okay.
It has not gotten out of the solicitors as of March 27th, and so that timeline's now
Okay.
shifting.
So then probably back to the committees, back to executive, who can send it out to the municipalities. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right, okay.
Yeah, and both of these meetings happened yesterday and today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So we have no time.
No, it's difficult that first week. So thanks so much.
Oh,
That's
no
that's
problem.
very, very
Appreciate that,
helpful.
Tamara,
And I know we'll have this before we're voting on anything. We'll have this again as a discussion item to answer all these questions. So, all right. So anything else on climate? Any other questions for Matt on climate? Committee, I'm not seeing anything. I don't see anything from Patty. Okay. It sounds like some of the same stuff was covered in facilities, so maybe we'll attack that then too. So
Yeah,
facilities
I
committee
think so from a power purchase agreement perspective, the only addition I would say is that I think from a scheduling perspective, I was really trying to understand when is it that this body needs to act? And they were like, oh, well, they're not really doing anything till October, so, So I don't,
Oh, okay,
there's
that's what I
no
was-
urgency from us. I guess
Okay,
that's
that's
the
what I
bottom line I
was-
wanted to
yeah.
bring here, is that for the foreseeable months, there's no urgency to kind of act fast on those
Okay.
documents. So that's that's just the one thing I want to add there. Number 2, Whitehall Regional Road Park. Going very well there. They're kind of wrapping up some fencing, some minor alterations. And once those things are buttoned up, they're going to select a grand opening date. I kind of inquired about, how ready the fields are, and they said all 3 probably need, this is their second seeding period, and so if all goes well with this particular period, it should be ready for the fall for use by organizations and public. They are now working on the next piece, which was in phase 1, but D-scope, and that was kind of looking at a pavilion, all-weather pavilion. So looking at, there's some dollars remaining from the loan that they're checking with the bank. They couldn't draw down on those funds because the date passed, and so they're going to request on that, and they're going to come back with an ask to the municipalities and the committee on that, between donations, some grant dollars, and that remaining drawdown for that phase.
Okay.
So we should be seeing something there. And then the third and largest thing, we met for 2.5 hours today, and 2 hours was on the capital improvement plan. So we reviewed the various tabs. So it's a very good process this time, where they've got fire, emergency management, library, parks, all the kind of, and the COG building itself, kind of laid out item by item. They've got fiscal 25 through 29. I think in summary, I had some concerns with the trajectory of Ferguson Township funding going up every single year. So I as a lone wolf, until coming back to this board, kind of requested that the folks effectively sharpen their pencils and really kind of understand what the ask is over the coming years, and is it really necessary? And if it is necessary, kind of what are the long-term impacts of that? And so one example was the walk path.
The boardwalk.
The boardwalk there at
Millbrook.
at
yeah.
Millbrook Marsh, thank you. Being a fairly large capital outlay, looking at potential loans, and then the loan doesn't get paid back by itself, so there's a debt service that would impact our contributions each and every year, and again, to kind of add that amount. So kind of just asked them to think through perhaps some other ways to do that, and some other I guess, sources of that. So rather than just blanketly, falling on this body, maybe there's a referendum that could come, ask the voters to vote on something like that. And if they're okay with it, then probably, so things like that. I also asked them to look at kind of, just not just kind of municipal dollars and kind of doing it that way. So they're gonna take that back, sharpen pencils, look at other sources, and look to not increase every year, and hopefully we can get some kind of steady state type of. So that was the big move there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Discussions, yeah.
All right, thanks. Questions for Amari? We could start over here. this time.
I actually dug into the CIP because, of course, it was released to that committee. Pretty much they were first on the agenda of the CIP. I did take some notes related to some of the high dollar items and things that not only for facilities but other areas that kind of caught my attention. I'm happy to maybe just mention some of those things now if it's appropriate. A couple different things. First, I want to echo what Mr. Patterson said about the Ferguson contribution, because I did reach out to the head of the Finance Committee and being on that committee as well, to just understand a little bit more about the equation that's used. That, everybody cites, and as we'll notice in the CIP for the COG, Ferguson Township has the largest percentage contribution of any other municipality. So I'd like to understand that a little bit more, and I think the citizens would like to, in Ferguson Township, understand kind of how that was calculated, because I understand too that that equation was established in 2009 in July. So it's been about nearly 15 years since it's been reviewed, addressed, et cetera, and even, I think, asked the question of, does this work anymore? I don't know. So I'm going to be asking some questions kind of as I go through on the finance side of the house to better understand that and communicate. So again, something I'll be taking forward. A couple things from a facility standpoint in the CIP that stood out to me were things like the $93,000 for the general forum AV over 5 years. That seems like a lot of money, $93,000 for a room. Again, something there. The boiler expiring after 10 years. I don't know if that seems right from a heating and cooling perspective, if boilers only last 10 years and then they need to be completely switched out. That's a big expense. A couple other things, not only in the facilities area, but if I were to draw attention, and I encourage folks to look at, maybe dive into some of these things as well. But the parks, nearly $500,000, so $500,000 worth of vehicle expenses over 5 years to buy new trucks. That seems like a lot to me, to say, yeah, we're going to spend $500,000 to replace a couple vehicles, et cetera. So with those in mind, I'm trying to look through my notes here if anything else really jumped out at me. The AV, et cetera, Ferguson's contribution, and a couple other minor things that I'm happy to go ahead and dive into. But if anybody had other questions about what I kind of looked at, I'm happy to go ahead and talk about that now, or have a deeper conversation if folks have a better understanding than I do. But
A couple of reactions. That's one place where they're going to do some sharpening on the AV piece, because it was kind of peanut butter spread across 4 different items.
$93,000.
Yeah. And so when you add it up, it's like, interesting.
Yeah.
So that is one area where I know there's going to be some tightening there.
Okay.
The vehicles for parks, one of them is that kind of, there's a CRPR on the go. It's a big vehicle, like RV type of thing right now. They're going to downsize it to a shuttle bus or shuttle vehicle. But I have seen its use and its utility, and they're getting to the point where they're spending more money on repairs than it would be to just go ahead and make the investment and get the new vehicle and have much less in repairs. So kind of things like that.
And if I may, that one actually wasn't even on the list of trucks, because there are 10 trucks total in 5 years that are identified as trucks, and the Sprinter van, et cetera, I believe is the one. That's not even on that list.
Oh.
The $500,000.
Okay, copy that.
Yeah, so there's a lot, and I'm not questioning the unique vehicles, Bobcats, et cetera, things like that. But again, $500,000 seems like a lot in just 5 years for trucks. A couple other things too, back into the facilities side of the house. I noticed there were like $10,000, well over $20,000 being spent on conference room improvements. Just general conference room in the COG. And I'm like, how many conference rooms are there that need to have these types of levels of improvement? So again, sharpening the pencil maybe, but those were some things that had jumped out to me digging into it. So more to follow, again, from the finance standpoint going forward, but just wanted to share that here since facilities got to have first crack at it there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just thank you so much, because that was one of my concerns when looking at the last year's budget, and we COG used to somewhat maintain a budget within the level of inflation, but now some of those increases have been outpacing inflation. It's just very concerning. You can't just keep going like that and expect everything to sustain itself over time. And I think you, Mr. Heller, brought up a good point last year when we're in those committees. It's not necessarily, yeah, it may be easy for us to just say, oh, yes, we're good with this, we're good with that. But if we just keep saying we'll take everything off the shelf that's in the store, we're eventually going to be very sorry for our decisions at the checkout line. So kind of maybe have to think about that when we are looking at, something new. And do we go with $90,000 for AV improvements in the room when maybe there's an option that's a fraction of that will still meet the needs of the COG and the municipalities?
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Patty, do you have any comments or questions?
No, just I share the concerns that everybody has expressed, and look forward to going through that CIP a little bit more, and maybe having some individual discussions with you all. I do get concerned about the increase in spending, and this is, again, just what I like is the deliberative talk that we're having here, because some of these decisions, particularly when it comes to the boardwalk or pools or things like that, they're technically authority decisions, and of course they're just, yes, we need this, but we're the ones who have to come up with the money, and this is where I appreciate the discussion, so thank you.
Thanks. Patty, it's a great point because we only have so many opportunities to give this feedback and to discuss it as a board, and then to make sure that our representatives to the different committees have something to go on, when they go to these meetings. And so I appreciate everyone being willing to take the time to kind of listen to what has already been presented and said, and be ready to come back with some other comments. I only had a few, and I echo what has already been said by both of you. Thanks so much for going through the CIP in that kind of detail. One thing that made it a little bit difficult was not having the currently approved CIP to compare to and what the actuals were. I know there's an actual in there, but to know where the changes were, because if you look at the approved CIP right now, currently, we had roughly 427,000 planned contribution from Ferguson Township for 2024, and that jumps to 600,000, so 427 to 600 in 2025. Now that is in the CIP, so that was approved last year, but when you're looking at what those major increases were for, it's very difficult to track because a lot of that from the previous year's CIP, and this is so kind of convoluted, but in the previous year's CIP, a lot of that was for fire building, and then those numbers drastically change, but the number is still high. So I'm really unclear about where some of these increases are coming, but if you look at the current CIP, you'll see just a steady increase and then a jump this year. So there is an enormous, and it's not just Ferguson that's going to experience that big jump. There is a big jump in 2025. So that should be acknowledged. And just having more of that existing, what's already approved and what has been spent per the approved CIP and budget. What actually got moved into the budget from that CIP and, where are the differences there. So for one thing, that Millbrook Marsh Service Building, that was, it's a big deal. It was the chicken coop before, staff was working out of it at Millbrook Marsh, and it was made a very, very high priority, but now it's been de-escalated in priority. But I think there's still the same situation. So just having a little bit more follow up on where did we leave these projects that we discussed last year, I think would be really helpful as this kind of stuff moves forward. And and the marsh is the boardwalk is like a totally kind of separate big thing to tackle, and the marsh not being part of the regional parks program where we have the loans taken out and we have this commitment to having one in each township. I think that has to be addressed, and that's what hopefully is going to happen in parks governance too before anything comes forward. And that the last thing I would mention on this is the indoor recreation facility study. So there's a feasibility study planned in there, and I think it's not until 2028. But what I would say is that if that stays in there, there needs to be something planned for implementation for the following year, because no feasibility study ever comes back with, no, all of these things are there for a reason, and it's, well, how could we do it, really, is what it is. And so, and you can't let those studies just sit there either. If you're going to do it, you've got to have something to follow up with. So that's what I would say, if that's going to be, and that seems like a reach for right after a bond is taken out for, or debt is taken on for the boardwalk to do the indoor recreation. But if that is what's going to happen, I think there just needs to be some capital commitment in the following year to implementing that. So that's all I'll say for now, but I really appreciate that. I think it's going to come to finance next, the CIP maybe, and maybe Park Authority. I'm not sure what the order is there, and then we will get it back from the executive committee for municipal comments. So, but it is difficult to get changes in once the process goes through a few different committees. So as much as these comments can be carried forward to our various committees, that's great, because that means we're heard, and hopefully something gets baked in there as it's kind of moving forward through all the committees.
So I'm hearing that we need perhaps some sort of consolidated list of things like that we as a board want to kind of drive to change. What's the action there? How do we do that?
So we'll have an opportunity. When is the finance committee? I guess that's next Thursday. And then it'll probably go to executive after that. But I'm wondering if we have a meeting between finance and executive to discuss. Because there's no real action to take at this point other than to relay all these comments to each other at our public meeting so that we can carry them forward to finance, to parks.
So if I might offer, if you have additional comments or thoughts, let's go ahead and maybe use me as the funnel, and I can bring them forward in the conversation with finance next week. But yeah, if you just want to give me some bulleted list, things that you're focusing on, we can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, that's great. And we've done that before, where people can just send their individual comments, and we're not, it's just for you to have some more information, I guess.
And the public too, right? So
Oh,
if you have
yeah, absolutely. And the public's welcome to attend those meetings too. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks for everyone for that discussion. Okay, if there's nothing else on that, looking around, not seeing anything else on that. Thanks, everybody. It's valuable. I mean, it does take some time to go through this, but those items on that first year in the CIP will get moved into the budget. And so it's, it's kind of like, this is the opportunity to look at, what we're gonna be faced with in the budget. So if we don't say something now, it's just gonna move through, because they are, there are some great things in there. It's just that we have we're wanting to look at it strategically and really deliberatively, how we do these projects and initiatives, so. All right, thanks, everybody, and we will move on to staff reports, and we'll go first to the manager, if there's anything you'd want to highlight from your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Provided with the agenda is a copy of my report. I have nothing to add, but happy to answer questions.
Thanks. Questions for the manager? Not seeing any. No? Okay. And we will go to the public director's report, which was included. If there was anything, we could ask the manager to relay that, or thought that was a pretty thorough report included there.
Just have to give a shout out to our wonderful public works employees. I know many of them are having a rather soggy first week of leaf and brush collection. As a matter of fact, it looked like some of them might have needed to navigate some pathways through the township this morning by boat. Yeah, thank them for being brave out there in the weather and properly signing the bike paths if like the one outside my house that got flooded today, but definitely very helpful to all our pedestrians and bicyclists, and just thank them for serving our community.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you. Okay, we have no unfinished business this evening, so move to new business, and we have the consent agenda with one item. Did anyone need to remove that to discuss it? And if not, could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Patty, so moved.
Zamari, second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. And we've removed that item number 2. And we'll go to communications to the board. Is there anything anybody needed to highlight?
I had communications pertaining to the fence and the impact of the fence with the expansion of Route 45 for the bike lane, so. that was that.
Thank you. Anything? All
Not
right.
this time.
Thank you. Okay.
I have nothing.
Oh, Lisa, I'm
Patty
sorry.
has something.
Sure, go ahead, Patty.
I just had somebody contact me about signs in the right-of-way along North Atherton. As we're getting into political season, they were hoping not to see more before the primary, but apparently there are some advertising signs in the right-of-way along North Atherton.
All right, thank you. Okay, all right, if there's nothing else, we have a bunch of calendar items. We have coffee and conversation at Dunkin' Donuts on April 6th. I want to say that's at 8 a.m. probably, 8 a.m. A number of township committee meetings. Board of Supervisors will meet April 16th, and then the Watershed Cleanup Day is April 20th. Household hazardous waste collection event is the 26th and 27th, and we do have our Arbor Day celebration on April 27th. All right, if there is nothing else this evening, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
This is Patty, motion to adjourn.
And I second, and we are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Patty.